Hello everybody, this is my version of the Rend Marksman build. It's been pretty fun. I played it over the last week or so on stream. It is pretty good for chunking bosses and doing large amounts of damage. However, attack speed wise, it's struggling. It's having a harder time keeping up as I push further, but I wanted to make a build showcase versus a build guide just because I think this still has room for it to grow. So starting off with our items, my big piece that I have here is a Hydra Arc. Because of the +4 to skills and the 16 to dex. At the bottom of the card there it reads, after evading, you repeat your most recent used bow attack at the nearest enemy. And it uses 50% of its mana cost. So as you scale dex, you get the next one for 2 enemies and then 3 at 135. That being said, some of this gear has increased the dex and physical damage, health regen and resistance for the ring, physical mana on the belt, more resist, dex, mana, resist, and our quiver here has increased dex, physical damage, blind, poison, and some more resist, and then the implicit there at the top, just more bow damage and stun chance. Our amulet here has increased physical damage, critical multiplier, dodge rating, frailty, and the increased crit chance on the implicit. Our big pieces here, though, there's a doppelganger sec. This will allow us to keep creating more shadows every time we evade and we use shift. Our helmet here gives us the opportunity to gain a stack of Dust Shroud. Chest piece here, increase damage for our shadows, on the implicit for 85%, and then on the chest, 142%. Additional shadow, health, dodge, crit. And then our relic here has the opportunity to create more shadows, increase crit chance for them, damage, and physical resistance. And then we have the boots here as well, that every time we pop Shadow Rend, it creates 2 shadows, one behind us shooting our bow attack, and then the another one with a blade that slashes out in front of us. And then again, more damage, more dex on there, and less damage taken over time. And then lastly, our gloves, increased dex, mana, armor, and crit strike avoidance. Our idols over here, nothing too important, really. Just a lot of these to increase a little bit of damage here and there, get some more resist. Looking at my board here, I'm not quite capped out. I'm pretty close for the last 3 here, but again, this is just a showcase, so what I've been working on. It's not perfect by any means, but there's definitely some room to grow. So let's go take a peek at the skills now, starting with Shadow Rend, of course. 4 points into more damage. Again, more damage, less attack speed with the heavy shadows. Dark Cloak, we get the Dust Shroud chance, and then we get increased damage with the Dust Shroud ward, up to 20 stacks of that. And we no longer will dash or move when we use Shadow Rend. Now the shadows will go ahead and attack on their own. You can actually just target where you want them to go, which is really nice. Over here, we get more shadow daggers. I'm not really sure if this is working as I think it is, but again, just to showcase. Every time we hit, we do frailty chance and slow. And then this big one here, I need to move some points over to this. But up to 5 negative ailments on an enemy, and we do 6 times 5, 30% more damage. So I probably need to pull 1 point out of here and drop it in there. Frenzy for 3 seconds, and we get increased damage. We're attacking like crazy, so this is always up. A little bit of attack speed here, and then every time we hit Shadow Rend, we're consuming a bunch of shadows, and we're getting a huge damage boost, which isn't a problem. because we're creating shadows like crazy. So there's no shortage of shadows here. In the beginning, when I was starting this build, I went into multi-shot. It's pretty fun, but if you're consuming your shadows, they're not rocking the multi-shots, so the synergy, it didn't really work together that well. In my smoke bomb tree, I got the slow stack just so I could get into armor shred. Up here, we have area and growth speed, glancing blow chance, dodge rating, and we get 2 seconds on the buff that can stack. Getting more area and duration. So the idea is here, you know, you could pop it on a boss, and then you can also get the buff yourself while you kite around him and get some hits off. This slot here, I was kind of up in the air about it. Before I had multi-shot here, but since we're no longer doing multi-shot, decoy it is. Just 1 point in here to travel up to the increase, or the extra shadow created. Down here for mana efficiency, frailty, get a little bit of haste every time you hit it. Down here for the armor shred, and over here for reflect damage and the additional decoys. So the big ones here, shadows, decoys, and stacks of shred, and the frailty and armor shred from here as well. Dark Quiver, this can really juice up our damage if we're doing our setup properly when we're doing a boss. This will give you a ton of extra damage. So, of course, 4 points into the additional damage, the armor shred, or the physical shred, and the shadow on pickup. Going over here just for health, dust shroud stacks, and the additional chance of having a black arrow drop. This is super cool, so you don't have to always cast it when you're running around and doing your maps. You can just find them as they drop down randomly. On the left side here, increased damage. The mana consumption was a problem for a while, but I think we've got it figured out now. A little bit of mana, and then we consume our shadows here. Lastly, in the shift tree, cooldown, mana efficiency, just to get up to here for the increased damage, and then again for more damage. If you are pretty slow like I am, you might want to take some points out of this because it really, really, really decreases the distance that you have every time you dash. Down here, 2 points into the movement speed buff just to get the shadow. On the left side here, we get increased healing just to get the jade arrow. 3 stacks of this, so you'll get 3 every time you cast shift. And then we're maxing out the jagged arrows, so we get the increased critical multiplier. Alright, now on the passive trees, I put 8 points into attack speed, physical damage, 8 points into this for the dex, health, 5 in the guile, a little bit of damage while moving, reduction, and dodge rating increase. And then here we get haste every on hit, and then we deal increased damage with our movement speed. Over here, I'm going to drop this point here. We'll actually have an increased critical strike chance with our bow. In the Blade Dancer tree, I actually put two different... I got 2 different nodes here. One for the increased dex, glancing blow chance, and we get a little bit of physical resistance. But down here for the increased shadow damage, and we get health every time we create a shadow. We will be doing that like crazy. Marksman tree. This is where we spend the last 58 points we have. Increased attack speed, health gained every time we hit somebody, dex, dodge rating, and we get haste every time we use evade. Increased bow damage, critical strike, and additional critical strike chance with the bow. Just 1 point here to get down to the critical strike avoidance, bow crit multiplier. And then I got 8 points into this for the more damage. I'm pretty sure the more damage is what will juice up your damage way more than just additive damage. So I figured this was probably better to pick up and not continue the rest of this tree here. Down here, we get sharpshooter. So we'll gain up to 10 stacks, which is... Shoot, I don't have the I don't have the math in front of me. Hopefully I this in afterwards, but we'll get a big additional increase of damage from this. 1 point into here for the crit chance, up to 5 stacks, and then we get the multiplier as well. And then lastly over here, increased mana regen, and then our bow cost equals more damage. 100% of the cost of the skill we're using. Alright, let's go check out the build. I will show you my little rotation that I do when I am bossing. Alright, so if this is your boss here, first of all, drop your decoy, hit your quiver, smoke bomb, go grab these, over. Boom. So you can see it's hitting for 250,000 up to 500,000 pretty consistently. The only issue I typically have is I'll run out of mana, which you can quickly see dropping here. But also, this is a very, very squishy build. Looking at our defenses, we don't really have a lot of endurance threshold, so, and our health is relatively low. I only recently got some ward going, but it's a very, very squishy build. But yeah, I hope you all liked the video. If you have any suggestions on how to improve the build or would like to see more in the future, I'd really appreciate a comment, like, or even a sub to the channel. Thank you all for watching, and look forward to seeing you all in the next one.